Hi guys. I did research on ethical violations and board discipline in the state of Wisconsin, and the most common reasons for a board to discipline a counselor seemed to be because of dual relationships, as well as issues with record keeping and documentation. So my reaction to this is some of the records gave me the heebie-jeebies with how many relationships happened from beginning as counseling relationships. And then, I don't know, some people just seemed creepy. But I do know that we live in a sinful world and that sin is warring over our hearts every day. And this is reality. And so this is why we have ethical codes and state codes in place to protect counselors and clients from stuff like this. And it also motivates me to be a very caring and ethical counselor for those who truly desire care. Some themes that I saw were that counselors who were violating codes did not reply at all or didn't reply in a timely manner to the state board's request for info. To me, it seemed like they were maybe running from the law. They knew what they were doing, so they just didn't answer. But this actually wasn't the case for those involved in dual relationships. A lot of these counselors admitted to their faults right away and then resigned in order to continue the relationship that they were in. Also, what I saw in the state of Wisconsin wasn't too different from overall in the United States, at least for the years of 2010 to 2014. Wilkinson, Smith, and Wimberly, 2019, received data from 49 states and Washington, D.C. about complaints leading to disciplinary actions from state counseling boards. And their most common complaint was failure to meet continuing education requirements, which is what I expected to be for Wisconsin, because I think that's something that you could forget about, but it wasn't. But I did see some of them. And then number 2 was dual relationships, sexual and non-sexual. And then the third most common was misrepresentation of credentials. And I did see a lot of all of these in Wisconsin. They weren't in the same order of highest, but they were very similar. So the case that I chose to look at was about a substance abuse counselor. And I just chose this one because it was really interesting and there were lots of unethical things that occurred. Excuse me. So I'll call this Counselor A. The behavior that led to discipline was insufficient record keeping, records that lacked like progress notes, summaries, assessments about the clients, false advertising of services offered, failure to answer or respond to the complaint of the state board twice at least. And then the state codes were under unprofessional conduct of substance abuse counselors. And this person violated the code that says you perform an offer to perform services that you are qualified for. This person was provided services that they weren't qualified for. They false advertised and misled and used deceptive behavior. They obtained or attempted to obtain compensation by fraud, and then they also just misused assessments and evaluation diagnosis as a basis for treatment provided. They just did the same test for every client they saw. And some of the ACA codes of ethics included they didn't avoid harm. This person didn't seem to promote the welfare of clients. Did not maintain records and documentation, did not provided services outside of their scope, excuse me. They did not monitor effectiveness. They didn't have colleagues or proper supervision for what they were doing. They didn't monitor their efficacy. They solicited and false advertised to clients, false advertised their professional qualifications, had inaccurate representation of that, and many more things. But the board's discipline, they decided to suspend for 1 year this counselor's credentials to practice as a substance abuse counselor and a clinical supervisor in training. And then they also required this person to complete 3 hours of education regarding documentation and then 9 hours of education on professional ethics regarding to substance abuse counseling. I think this person maybe should not be a counselor anymore, but I think 1 year is not enough for them to learn their lesson and to not harm any more clients or to waste their time and money. So now looking at impairment, the ACA Code of Ethics 2014 tells us that as counselors and counselors in training, we need to monitor ourselves for any physical, emotional, mental problems, and if we do see these things, to seek assistance and refrain from counseling so that we do not harm our clients. And then we're also called to assist our colleagues and supervisors if they are impaired, so that they do not harm their clients either. Yeah. And then my question is, how do state boards for counseling decide upon appropriate discipline for violations? Some of the things that I saw just did not seem harsh enough, and I'm not a harsh person. I just thought the discipline seemed too light, and some of the violations were very serious and scary, and counselors deal with a lot of people in vulnerable states, and if they abuse this therapeutic relationship, I think that they should be held responsible for the harm that they caused or the harm that they could have caused. Yeah, okay. Thank you.